Hello, Jeremy Lewicki here, and I am the founder of LATT SEO. We focus on working with Shopify companies to help them rank better in Google from an organic perspective. And what I'm doing with this series here is going through and looking at various Shopify sites and doing a detailed SEO audit in terms of elements and items that can and should be cleaned up that would help them rank better in Google, generate more traffic, and generate more sales from that perspective as well. So first thing I want to do is look at allbirds.com and just go through and look at a variety of SEO elements for them. And the first thing to look at here that I like to use is a tool called Ahrefs here. And what this shows, if you're unfamiliar, is a ton of different data points. But the two main ones I like to look at are referring domains and DR, or domain rating. And what a referring domain is, again, if you're unfamiliar, is a unique instance of a different website on the internet linking to your site, or in this case to allbirds.com. And the reason why referring domains are important is because Google looks at referring domains as votes of confidence. When a trusted site links to your site, Google sees that and views that as a vote of confidence or a trust signal. So the goal is to have trusted sites linking to your site. And as you do that, in most cases, your DR, or domain rating, tends to increase as well. Now, in this case here, if Allbirds, for example, were to get a link from a site with a DR 10, very unlikely that would help them very much. But to get back to definitions here, DR is on a scale of 0 to 100, and a DR of 79 is relatively strong because DR it's on a logarithmic scale. It's not linear. And you can see here the value over time of the amount of traffic they have. Now, a couple interesting other data points here would be traffic per month from an organic perspective, and then looking at some of these charts here. So the blue line is referring domains, and the orange squiggly lines here is the average organic traffic per month, or per time segment here, I should say. And it looks like, generally speaking, what happens is you get referring domains or links from other sites, and then traffic is a lagging indicator following those links. But it looks like over time here, traffic is or has declined from back in November of 21 from about 440,000 to about 300,000 here in May of 24. So the interesting trend here of traffic for them, even though links have continued to increase. So a couple different things could be causing that, and I want to look at a number of different elements here that can help them being allbirds.com, clean things up. So one of the first things to look at here would be the keyword data. So this chart here shows all keywords and phrases their site is ranking for in Google. You can see 71,742 different keywords, and I have this sorted by search volume per month. So the first thing to look at here would be figuring out if these pages or if these keywords make sense to focus on or put energy toward from an SEO perspective. And the first one here is shoes. Something that broad and that competitive that you're at position 35 for, I probably would not recommend focusing on, even though there's 540,000 searches per month. So the next thing to look at then would be looking at keywords and phrases that we already rank pretty well for. So for that, what we do is a filter to look at position 2 through 20. And the reason for that is, if you're unfamiliar with how search results are clicked in Google, if you're not position 1, there's a massive opportunity for additional traffic for you. And I'll show you some real examples of that here in a second. Now, a better opportunity here would be something like running shoes, 125,000 searches per month, and they're at position 10. So if we look at the search results for this, we can see who's ranking, what's going on, and what we need to do to improve. First thing to look at here would just be looking at DRs. And we have Nike at number 1, DR 90, Runner's World 85, Adidas 87, Dick's Sporting Goods 84, Amazon 96, Ultra Running 69, Asics 82, Fleet Feet 73, and then Allbirds here at 79. So they're in the general ballpark here. Now, the reason, again, for looking at this is if page 1 was filled with DRs 80s and 90s, and we're at DR 20, it's going to be extremely difficult to get into that ranking segment unless we do some serious work to build that up. Now, next thing to look at then from just a high-level view here would be domains. Now, I mentioned before referring domains or links from other sites. This is also looked at on a page-by-page basis, and that's what this metric shows here. So you have domains here for Nike. They have 230 unique domains linking to this page, their running shoes page. And then Runner's World has 583, Adidas 328, and Allbirds here is at 44. So big gap there from that perspective. But here's where the interesting part comes into play. To go from position 10 to position 3 for this key phrase here, we're looking at a traffic increase of about, so we have 2,419 per month to the running shoes page, the women's running shoes page for Allbirds here. To get to number 3, the traffic increase would be about 10x, 23,635. And then we have Runner's World at almost 110,000 and Nike at 67,000. Now the reason for these numbers here is this page for Runner's World here actually ranks for way more keywords than just best running shoes or running shoes. So that's the reason for this traffic here. But even still, if we look at the number 3 position, we're looking at a 10x increase in traffic going from number 10 to number 3. And then you can see here it looks like another 3x to go from 3 to 1 for this key phrase alone. So massive opportunity here. And one other data point to look at for that is if we go to this key phrase here chart for running shoes, you can see here, aside from, let me just go back to the actual running shoes page here. So there's, again, a ton of different data points in here, but to look at other opportunities here from a keyword perspective on the page, and then also getting ideas for content moving forward, what we do is look at the key phrase chart here for running shoes. And we could segment this to look at best or other competitive brands here and get an idea as to what else we could or should focus on. The one quick caveat here that I always recommend from this perspective is if we're doing or targeting a key phrase like running shoes or best running shoes, looking at competitive key phrases here like Hoka running shoes or Nike, it probably doesn't make sense to include that content on your site unless you have comparison type data. And if you're going that route, then that opens up a whole nother opportunity from a keyword and a content perspective. But in most cases, it doesn't make sense to target competitive type key phrases on your site. But if we look at running shoes and we drill into this even further, oops, I'm just going in a circle here. So the data here that I wanted to show is the total search volume here and the total number of keywords. So keywords containing running shoes, there's almost 64,000 keyword opportunities, and the total search volume per month is 2.5 million. Now again, this includes competitive data and includes a number of keywords that probably wouldn't make sense to target from a general perspective, but gives you an idea as to just one segment of the market here and the total search opportunity from this perspective. Now, next thing to look at then would be going to some of these pages here and getting an idea as to what's going on. So if we let's look at Nike, since they're at number 1, and see what's going on with their page here in general. So it looks like they're ranking for, or just optimized for running shoes. And if we do a quick inspection here, we can see this is an H1. So, and I'm looking at, if you hover over this in the code, there's 2 ways you could find it. So if we just click on it here, you can see over here H1, or it just highlights at the top by the cursor. Now, what an H1 is, again, if you're unfamiliar, is generally the primary topic or primary keyword on the page. And running shoes, not surprisingly, is their primary topic and what they're optimized for. The title of the page is running shoes, Nike.com, that's it. So they are optimized for and targeting running shoes heavily with this page. And you can see here they have men's running shoes, women's, big kids, men's, women's, and so on. So all of this is their entire running shoes page. Now if we go back to look at something like Runner's World and then Adidas, and then we'll open up Allbirds here as well. So on Runner's World here, this is just a compilation page that outlines probably affiliate type links here, and these types of pages are ranking extremely well in Google now. So yeah, this is just a full write-up page for a bunch of affiliate links for them. So this one is a search competitor from that perspective because they're ranking, but it's not a competitor from a brand perspective. But again, it's definitely something we still need to keep in mind from an SEO perspective. And then Adidas here looks like they are targeting or ranking their women's running shoes page for this key phrase here. So again, if we do an inspection, we look here. Come on, inspection, there we go. So this looks like this is their H1 as well. So women's running shoes up to 50% off is their full H1. And then if we go to Allbirds and we do an inspection here, their H1 is active shoes. So very interesting. And could be part of the reason why they're not ranking as well as they should be for this key phrase, because the H1 is active shoes instead of running shoes or women's or men's running shoes. Same thing though, if we go to men's and we do that same inspection here, H1 for active shoes. So they have, and it's not necessarily bad to have the same H1 on multiple pages, but in general, the H1 should describe what that page is about. And if you have multiple pages that are both targeting active shoes as the same key phrase, then it's probably going to confuse Google, or potentially confuse Google, I should say, and make it, again, potentially more difficult for you to rank. What would make more sense is if they had this as men's active shoes on this page and women's active shoes on this page, or again, to include running shoes instead of active shoes. Because one other thing we could look at here is if we go here to active shoes and look at the potential, the search volume for active shoes potential is 3,300, and there's only 331 different keywords to rank for that key phrase. So much bigger opportunity from that perspective. And if it was just a brand new brand or something and that was the key phrases they could compete for at that time, then that might make sense. But because of the strength of the site here, changing this to running shoes would likely make it easier for them to rank better for that key phrase. Now the other thing to look at then would be looking at this tool here. So this is called Surfer SEO. And what this tool does and what we do here is we put the key phrase in here, so running shoes, and then we put the URL, which is for Allbirds, their better ranking page here is for women's running shoes. So we put that page in there, and what this does is it looks at the top 5 ranking sites in Google for that key phrase, and then looks at the URL we put in here, so Allbirds, and reverse engineers what needs to be done basically to compete and to rank better. It looks at the average of the top 5 ranking sites for a number of different factors in here. So one of those is content density. So if we look here at the key phrase running shoes, it shows that we being Allbirds, have that key phrase in there 5 times, and it's suggested 14 to 41 times. So it recommends adding more content in there based on the average of the top 5 ranking sites. Trail running shoes, same thing. Balance, fresh foam, that's probably a competitive term. Best running shoes in there 0 times, recommends 1 to 4, and so on. You get the point there. I don't need to go through every single one of these. And some of these don't make sense. Some of these are like Lone Peak or extra support, probably wouldn't make sense on some of these pages, but you might have a segment that targets just shoes with extra support, so that would make sense more so on that page. But if we look here at content, now again, some of these don't really make sense because you have the Runner's World page, remember, with a ton of content on here that's really skewing this data set. But we have Adidas at almost 1,300 words of content, Nike with only 387, we're at 950. So from that ballpark, we're in that expected range of the actual sites. And then add keywords per 100 words in body, so basically just increasing the keyword density. And look, Adidas has over 1 keyword per 100, Nike has almost 4, and we're at 0.53. And I'm saying I'm not affiliated with Allbirds, I'm just doing this as if I were to be. And then we have add 1 exact keyword in H1, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago. So Adidas, Nike, Runner's World, and Asics all have that key phrase running shoes in their H1, and Allbirds does not, of course. And then a couple other items here, partial key phrases here. So they have partial because they have shoes in there. And then increase the length of the title. So actually all of these sites could improve, aside from Runner's World, their title length to target additional key phrases, because as I mentioned, Nike's title is running shoes, and then Adidas is women's running shoes, and Allbirds is running shoes for women. So again, they could all increase the length of title. And just as a quick opportunity here, if we look at running shoes, so we could dig into, if we just click on running shoes, we'll get some better ideas. Some brands don't like to target best or claim they're the best. So one opportunity here though would be to do running shoes or running shoes for women, best running shoes or something like that, or best options for for women, running shoes dash best options for women, something like that. You can target both of those key phrases in that title and potentially capture 50,000 more searches per month. So a lot of opportunity there. And then the page speed looks like it's really good. So page speed, time to first byte, load time, those elements are good. So that is basically what I would do to look at this site from an SEO perspective. And then the next parts we would dig into would be looking at content opportunities and looking at content gaps to see what other additional content we could have on the page or on the site to rank better. And that is how I would do an SEO audit for a site like allbirds.com. Hope this was helpful and hope to see you in the next one.